I'm here to say hello, and welcome to my tutorials on how to make a car in the Unreal Engine 5. Woo! Alright! Hello, welcome back to another WhaleJaw 3D tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to set up your camera. So then, just to recap, if we open our blueprints, we have a spring arm and a camera attached. If you haven't got one, just click up here to add them. Now, what we need to do is create the blueprints for the camera function. Now, shall we just have a quick overview of what we've got set up here? That's the handbrake. We'll talk about that later. But how I was initially taught how to do this was to grab your vehicle wheel component, get your axis value, because it's an axis, like it's the thumbstick, not a button, and obviously connect these two together. Now, this would traditionally work, but it can get very messy. It does, it gets crazy. So press Alt, you can deselect all these. I've learnt the new method, which is this method, where you compound them into a function, basically. And we're also using an event tick as well. Instead of an input axis, we're using an event tick, yeah? And that means that we can compile these into a function. So if we open up this function, we can see we're doing it a different way now. We're creating like a nice little tidy stream kind of thing. We're using a return value as well as a Mark 6 inputs, yeah? So if I just leave this on the screen so you can see it, and this is how you set up your controller, basically, in a nice, tidy manner. Always remember to compile and save, and if you want to go back, it's up here. Look, go back out through the folders. Now those are sorted. They're like basic ones, easy ones to set up. The camera one's a little bit more complicated, so if we open this one up, how we need to set this up is we need the camera function, and we need to add a relative rotation node. But this time, let me show you how you do this. You grab your spring arm, you chuck it there, like so, and then you want to pull it into one of these, don't you? So, add relative rotation. Now, what you can do is just put the first two letters of each word and it'll find it for you. It's a really handy tip, that. So if we select this one here, and then right-click this here, put split structure pin, move it all down, there we go. We can see we're starting to match this up now. So if we find this one here, see now, this one here, this one will already be in when you open it kind of thing. So obviously you'd plug that one into there, wouldn't you, kind of thing. This is basically the like linking box to this folder, if that makes sense, like camera function, yeah? It's like when you collapse to a function, you get to name it over here. So once we've put a camera function into the play button, we can then obviously get these two here, which would be get lookup. And you've made these values in edit and preferences in the input settings, aren't you? And then obviously we plug the look up into the Y, which is the pitch. And then obviously we'll do a quick one for this, because it slows me down, taking my eyes off the screen, yeah? And this is basically how you do it. If you compile it and save it, and that's how you can rotate the camera on your car. Now at the minute, it won't return to center. We'll discuss that later, but if we just test the game to make sure it works, we can now move our camera, but obviously it doesn't reset to center. So shall we discuss that next? Right then, people. Sit tight, it's gonna get very interesting. So what we need to do in order to get the wheel speed, like the RPM basically, we need to create an instance of our chaos wheeled vehicle movement component. So what we need to do is we need to cast our information so that we've got something to reference, basically. So if you just get rid of this, what we need to do is we need to drag in a vehicle wheeled component, don't we? So you bring one of those in, and you pull that off. I hate saying the word pull that off. Then want cast to wheeled vehicle movement component, like that, yeah? And the next bit's a very tricky bit. I'm going to slow down and explain this one to you. What you need to do is you need to pull off of this blue one here, and then you need to promote to a variable. Can you see it here, look, yeah? And then that will create a set for us. Now this set has now created a new component in our variables outliner. So we now need to rename this. So if we call it something obvious that we can see, say, what, question mark? Yeah, just so we can see it. It's like an obvious word. Now, we also need to put the event playing, but you can only put one of these in per like blueprint. So if I just disconnect this, then you'd add one. Obviously, you'd add it through this menu. Plug it in. and we've got ourselves a cast. It's basically transmitting information that we can now then grab later on down the line. Does that make sense? It's kind of like a TV aerial, and we need some TV sets around our blueprints that need to grab that signal. Yeah, that's the best way I can explain it for you. So that's the first bit you need to tackle in the quest to make our camera move to the center. Very complicated. So you've made your little cast event up there, haven't you? Ignore that one over here. We're not interested in that one yet. I'll show you that one later. So now we've done this, we need to go into our camera functions. There. Now it's a bit crazy, so I'll take it slow and I'll just let you look at it. Yeah. I'll section this bit off as well, so that you can just quickly go to it in my video. Maybe a little section, the preview. Okay, so what we can do now is, basically, now we've created this new component here, as a variable component, we can basically drag it in. We need it to get information, don't we? We need to fetch it. This is our TV. Yeah, so now we've got that node thing. Are they called nodes? I don't know. And now what we need to do is get the forward speed in miles per hour. So if we drag it out, we need to get forward speed in miles per hour. Yeah, and then it gets crazy. So where shall we start? So this is our main. This should be up here with this one. Obviously you can only have one of those, so if we move these up here like that. Then what we need to add is add a relative rotation. So if we pull off of here, add relative rotation, and we split the pins, we can see it's a mess. Let me tidy it up. Yeah, and it's pretty simple. So I'm not going to bore you with it. We'll just talk through it. Yeah. So you need to add a relative rotation with a spring arm, which you get from up here. Where is it? There. Look. You can get one of these spring arms there and chuck it in there. Then we need to get the delta rotation on your get lock up. And then you need the delta rotation of the Z from your get look right. Yeah. So there you like axis inputs that we've created in the inputs. Yeah. And then from there, we tail off and we put set relative rotation. And we need to target again to the spring arm. And then from this spring arm, we need to make a target. So if we put target relative rotation, we need a transform to get relative rotation. Like this, look. Yeah. One of those. And what we need to do is then put it into a rinterp. It's basically a rotation interpretation. Yeah, it's a pretty cool name, I thought. Yeah, just get rid of this one. So obviously just type that into your side command, into your little select, and you'll pull up this one basically. Now, the first thing you'll need to do is get delta time. So get world delta seconds and plug that one into there. And then once we've done that, we're moving on to the clamping area. Like, this is the interpretation and clamping. So what it interprets from the like X and Y from this area here, it will apply a clamp. Yeah. So in order to create the clamps, we must first create two map range clamped nodes. Yeah. And then into those, we need to pull out a multiply, which is easy, I think. You just press M, click multiply, it's one of those, yeah. And then from that, we need to get the steering angle. So if we press steering angle, we put get steering, yeah, there we go, look, get steering angle, bada bing, bada boom, it's that one there, yeah, and you plug that one into there, lovely in jubbly. Now, on the second clamp, we need to return that value into the pitch, and then from the multiplies value, we need to return that one into the Z, the yaw. Takes some getting used to these words, but you'll get there in the end. Just follow along. And now, obviously, we need to make sure the values are all plugged into our forward speed, yeah? So we've got two here, we're plugging into that one that go into this rotation interpretation from what we've dictated here. If you copy in this information here, copy that information. So once we've created all these, we punch it all into a set relative rotation. See, with this one, this is where we're inputting the controller to like do something, steer effectively. And then when it gets to this part here, it will set the relative rotation, yeah? Relative to all this information here. That makes sense? So probably should put that one a bit up and out of the way there. We don't need that. So we input steering, magic happens, all its logic that it needs to do happens, and then we have a relative location clamping. And what this does is like kind of clamps, basically restricts which axis you're using. Yeah, that makes sense? It basically restricts the axis that you're moving. So same again, we need a set relative location, and we need to pull out a spring arm, remember that you can get from up here, and then we need to put a map range clamped, and we need to plug that value into the X location. Yeah, then obviously that's returned to the forward speed all the way at the beginning again, yeah? So, does that make sense? It's very complicated, but once you've got it and played about with it, it's like, oh my god, it just makes sense now, you know what I mean? So, probably delete that one. So, does that make sense? Input steering, camera compensation happens, and then we lock off rotation, any rotations that we don't want, kind of thing. Yeah, it's quite simple. So once you've done it, compile it, save it, then move back to your event graph. So now we've got our casting device, we have our camera function set up, and we have our controller set up, haven't we? I think just if you're still here and you're finding this interesting, you probably, like me, and you would like to know how to set up the handbrake. Because the handbrake was a bit tricky one for me. I had to test a few different ones kind of thing, but this is how you do it. You need to acquire the action event. So if we click here and put action event handbrake, is it here? It's at the top. Input hack. This is why I name things, like, you know what I mean, so you can actually find them. So if you click that one, input action handbrake. And now what we need to do is we need 2 handbrake inputs. So if we pull out and put set handbrake input, this one, not vehicle movement component, so it's definitely that one. And it comes out like this, so it'll automatically put your vehicle movement component in. Now with the first one, we need to tell it that it's on, don't we? Like the button's being pressed. So we click that one there and it will basically say it's on. Then we copy it and we paste another one down here. Like that. We turn that off and then we plug it into that one there, look. And we tell it to turn itself off. So when you press it, it'll come on, and then when you let go, it'll tell it to turn it off, yeah? And this is like the best handbrake I've managed to figure out. And obviously, make sure that you've connected your vehicle wheel cut component. And this is how you make a handbrake work. And I'd imagine every other kind of button that you want to use, say you want a boost button and things like that. This is how you create a simple on and off button using input action. And that should cover, for now, a full controller setup kind of thing. Yeah, so if you've stuck it out, please at least like this video, because I'm trying to make an online course on how to make cars and a car game on Unreal Engine. If you found this useful, definitely subscribe, because you'll want to come back to it when you forget later on. But otherwise, thank you for watching, everybody. I love making these videos and I absolutely adore the support that you give me, so thank you very much, and have a wonderful evening, guys. Bye-bye.